Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Yo, 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 everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Thank you guys for being here. And we need to get that on there. Perfect. Guys, wow. We've got a lot of drama going on, guys, and there's a lot of stuff happening. And we're gonna keep some of the hard stuff for later in the end of the stream. But I just want to let you know, there's been like a major shooting that's been going down, and there's like security people like outside of my neighborhood right now because there's politicians. So things are a little bit crazy. Hopefully we make it through this entire stream. Guys, we have triggered the Hornet's Nest. Wow. So quick update before we even get into this for people who have been following along since last night. I already challenged the Professor Dave to a debate, and predictably he dodged like a coward. We all knew he would. So tonight I want to make sure all his ignorant followers learn at least something about 0-point energy since he's been misinforming them for so long. So before that, let's get right to the video. Wow. Ashton Forbes is a grifting fraud. Whoa, we're coming out pretty hot out of the gate there, man. Seems like you got some issues, bro. Let's see what you got to say.
Hey, everyone. Of all the things I've debunked, I have yet to tackle technology-based conspiracies.
Yeah, that's probably because you don't know anything about technology, if I had to guess.
Well, it's time to add that to the list, because today we're going to address a pointless 2-bit grifter named Ashton Forbes. Who is he, and what kind of bullshit does he push? Let's find out. Ashton Forbes is a self-declared journalist. Of course, he's not really a journalist. That's just what idiot frauds call themselves to sound more legitimate.
Wow. I'm not really a journalist? Why is that? Are there some credentials to be a journalist that I'm not really aware of? I thought all you have to do to be a journalist is just report things. In fact, I've done more journalism on MH370 than all the mainstream media combined. Meanwhile, you are somebody who calls themselves a professor to sell yourself as a trustworthy scientific source, when in reality, you're a complete fraud who doesn't understand basic physics, and you just read scripts you don't even understand. Little bro, don't throw stones when your house is made of glass. Okay, buddy, you spent all this time to make this video, but you clearly never watched any of my content because you got everything wrong. You didn't even know I was actually invited on Joe Rogan. That's the reason why I pressed him. You didn't do your homework. Probably that's the same reason why you failed school twice. Ooh, let's go to the tape. Myself a 0-point energy. Oh, wait, that's not the right one. This one. Sorry, we got several.
And proponent of intelligent design, James Tour, wasn't a fan of the...
You know that I have not been a proponent of intelligent design.
And proponent of intelligent design, James Tour.
I just thought it'd be fun to have like a little persona. Professor Dave is just a little name.
I don't have a PhD in chemistry or anything, but I, did work in, I took courses with laboratory components.
Hey, Hey, I took courses with laboratory components, guys. That's basically a qualification, right? I took courses. I mean, am I a scientist? No. Do I have a PhD? No. Do I have a master's degree? No. Do I have anything that's relevant at all for teaching? No, nothing at all. But you know what? I need to grift online and sell a whole bunch of fake science to people and pretend like I'm an expert. So I'm just going to call myself Dave because it's a fun little persona to just play pretend.
As an undergrad, and then I did most of a master's in synthetic organic chemistry.
But I didn't really last long.
I did most of a master's, but I didn't really last long.
Dropped out in my second semester.
Of intelligent design.
Because with a bachelor's
I dropped out of my second semester
for organic chemistry at this little trade university. It was a pretty lucky break because with a bachelor's degree, I was only supposed to teach the laboratory portion. But on the first day, the lecture instructor had this freak out. He just took off. And so my boss came up to me and he said, look, you got to go teach the lecture. There's nobody here. They offered me the job permanently, but contingent on me getting a master's at the same time.
Things that never happened for 1,000, Alex.
So I went over to Cal State Northridge to give a second shot at a master's degree in chemistry,
and found that I really hated it. I really didn't like it.
So just if you're paying attention at home, he dropped out of a small, basically automatic pass trade school course, couldn't hack it there, was given a job. He couldn't even keep his own job. He got fired from his job for not being able to do basic education. And then he tried again, and he found out he failed again. Holy shit.
Do not enjoy doing chemistry.
But through a bunch of bureaucracy, quite frankly, I lost that job, so I had to withdraw.
The bureaucracy lost him the job. It was the bureaucracy, everybody. It wasn't that he's a total failure and he's never been successful at anything related to science in his life. It was the bureaucracy. It's somebody else's fault. Guys, I can tell a Nepo baby in about 5 seconds, somebody that has never had a real job in their entire life, and that if they were not raised with a silver spoon in their mouth, they would basically be a homeless person on the street. And that's what Dave Farina is. Now, some of you ask me, actually, before we even get to that, to really realize how much of a grifter this guy is, I didn't even watch his video. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I mean, I just kind of scrolled through it. There's a literal in-video advertisement for Incogni. Use Professor Dave for 60% off, everyone. Holy shit, how much of an absolute abject hypocrite can you be? Do these people have any self-awareness at all? I really think that they don't. All that effort making a video about me, you could have better spent making yourself smarter. Think about that. That's why I'm so much more intelligent than you, because I spend my time advancing myself. You spend yours attacking other people who are better than you. Some of you ask me, Ashton, is it fair to call him a mentally ill retard Dave Farina? And I say yes, because I've diagnosed him with chronic dick rider syndrome, where you're a loser with no original content. My content is physics and 0-point energy. Dave's content is me. A lot of these Redditors' anger stems from jealousy and inadequacy. Now let's go take another look at his video. Look at the top comment. Oh, look, it's me. Funny listening to a mentally ill failed musician / failed chemist also fail at basic physics. Just so you know, Dave, I am correct and will be proven correct. The best part is the internet never forgets. 4,700 upvotes. And for the record, none of those are bought by bots. The reason why that makes you so upset is because that's just how despised you are. And I'm just going to lay it down flat for you. There are very powerful people that are supporting me because they know those videos are real. And so when retards like you post shit like this is the reaction you get. This is called real people, not the fake bubble that you live in of mentally ill Redditors. That's why you're so confused by the backlash. I mean, 4,700 upvotes. on your own channel calling you a mentally ill retard. I got to be honest, if that was my channel, it would sting. Just saying. To me, it's actually funny watching their reality shatter. They're so sure that I'm going to get destroyed. And every time it backfires on them and they get so mad. It reminds me of the Danny Jones podcast when the Redditors were experiencing cognitive dissonance as all the claims that I was going to get destroyed just never materialized. These guys are idiots. He thinks 0-point energy doesn't exist. Why am I not surprised that a twice-failed chemist doesn't understand quantum mechanics? Has he ever heard of the Casimir effect? How about the Lamb shift? How about the Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect? These are all experimentally proven things. Lamb even won the Nobel Prize for it. 0-point energy has been proven for over 75 years. It's probably older than your parents. You are such an imbecile. Holy shit. Have you ever heard of John Wheeler? The guy who coined black holes and wormholes? How about Richard Feynman? They calculated the energy density of empty space to be 10 to the 120. Just because you're a little slow with numbers, that's 120 zeros, aka a really big number. Have you ever heard of the Manhattan Project? They were like kind of a big deal on that thing. What was that phrase? Oh, yeah. You're not even worthy to lick their jockstrap, you science conners piece of shit. Now let's go to another clip. Myself a 0-point energy influencer because I realized I don't even need to prove the science or the physics. It's all out there. The papers are out there.
This dumbass is contradicting himself every time he opens his mouth. You don't need to prove what you're saying because the physics is out there. The paper.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't need to build anything to prove to you. Because if you aren't willing to do the minimum amount of research to educate yourself, then why the hell should I do it for you, you dumbass?
Papers are out there. What papers? There are no.
What papers? What papers? How about let's start with the Defense Intelligence reference documents. Like, I go over them pretty much all the time. You have to be a complete fucking retard to not realize that I review scientific papers practically every single live stream. Literally pull them up, go through them point by point. In fact, I've probably read more scientific papers in just the last week than you have in your entire fucking life. I would put any amount of money on it. Any amount of money on it. If you don't know what the DIRDs are, which I'm sure you don't, they're classified papers that were declassified under a FOIA request in 2017. So when you say, what do you mean they're available but not available? That's what I mean. I mean, hey, they had them on classified areas and then now they made them available. That's what I mean. I'm actually doing a presentation on them next week in the Cosmic Summit. The thing is, the papers are hiding in plain sight, but they know that you're too stupid to ever even look at them. They know that you've never read a scientific paper in your life and you would never even be able to comprehend them even if you did. That's really how retarded humans are. Prove me wrong. Tell me you've read one of the DIRDs, even just one. There are 38 of them. I guarantee you've never read a single one. Meanwhile, I've read at least a dozen, maybe closer to like 20 of them. The government isn't hiding weapons programs? You think that the government doesn't have advanced technology? So what was that Wall Street Journal like just a few days ago, that article that came out that said UFOs are just a cover-up. The government has been using the UFO phenomenon to hide advanced weapons programs. Was that just all made up too? So what is it? Are the UFOs fake, or is advanced technology fake, or is all of it fake? And if the UFOs are real and there are these things flying around in the sky, since you pretend to be a scientist, why don't you tell me what is the power source for that UFO hovering around? You tell me, what kind of conventional combustion fuel could that UFO be using? Oh, yeah, none. Because if aliens exist, they're not fire-worshipping primitives. They use electricity and electromagnetism to get around. Because they're not morons who understand that the vacuum of space is not really an empty vacuum at all. In fact, even Einstein, if he was still alive, would know that. Let me be clear about what's happening right now for all you and your retarded followers. I'm the person that knows the MH370 videos are real. You're right. To some degree, I am a pretender. But I have something that's even better than a PhD. I have the answer sheet. So, of course, I want to debate. I talk to the smartest physicists on the planet. I'm going to wipe the floor with you. Smartest thing you ever did was dodging a debate with me. You have been exposed in front of all your brainwashed followers. We both know you're a complete fraud and loser. Don't worry. I know you're not a government asset. You're not remotely smart enough for that. You're just a complete retard who got past a fake 200-page defamatory document and you parroted it without checking any of the facts. Right, Dave? That's what happened, right? You got past a fake document about me from some mentally ill Redditors, and you just posted and made a video about it without checking any of the facts in there yourself. Tell me I'm wrong. See, the difference between us is that you read scripts you don't understand for your YouTube videos. Meanwhile, I actually learned the physics intuitively, and therefore I can live stream about it. All your stuff is prepackaged content. You can't manage a live stream situation or a real situation that requires a back and forth. You claim my friends aren't real? Buddy, your whole life isn't real. My friend is U.S. Navy engineer Salvatore Pais, and he called me today. In short, he wanted you to know that you're a cocksucker. That's about as nicely as I can put it. My other friend is Dr. Yu, PhD from NASA. He's too nice, but I guarantee you he feels the same way about you. Check out my June 27th appearance on Tim Pool. He's going to be there with me. I actually spoke to a cold fusion energy reaction company called ENG8. And here is a clip from that interview with them.
The air going into it. We measure the temperature going in.
I'm going to mute this, and I'm just going to let this come into focus because, A, I want to point out, I didn't control this live stream, so the quality is not my fault. The numbers that come into focus here are the Overunity numbers. That number up the top right there that says 3, that's the Overunity value in terms of heat. What that means, since you probably don't understand what the term Overunity means, is that it means it's getting more net output energy than it's getting in. In this case, the limitation is it's coming out in the form of heat, which isn't necessarily super useful, but still pretty damn impressive. So if you have a refutation for what I'm seeing here, I would love to hear it. Because the numbers that I'm looking at here, and I asked them while I was on the call with them, seem to indicate that they have an Overunity device that, while it can't run perpetually, can run for at least several minutes and produce Overunity. Now, you may say maybe their sensors are faulty or something like that. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just accurate. Maybe Overunity is possible. Have you ever heard of Robert J. O'Neill? He's the U.S. Navy SEAL who shot Osama bin Laden, or are you one of those conspiracy theorists who think that he didn't do it? Well, you should probably listen to what he has to say about the MH370 videos.
What do you think Trump will do? Because Trump says he'll end this day one. The U.S. pays for 90% of it. I think he can.
He's going to be the adult in the room. He's basically everything from the Malaysian flight that went away. I'm convinced that was a shot at China. Don't mess with us. That's sixth-generation war.
Hey, I'm guessing you don't know what sixth-generational warfare is, but you might want to Google it. It's warfare over space and time. So that's Robert J. O'Neill right there. This was before he followed me, by the way, saying that the Malaysian airline disappeared was a shot at China and that it was sixth-generational warfare. Well, you know, I guess I'm not really an expert, but I'd say that's a pretty good chance that the sixth-generational warfare that guy's talking about is this. Because that's MH370 in that color FLIR video you're looking at right there. That's literally MH370, the plane that's, still missing right now, that they never found, that impossibly disappeared in 2014, that there's no way the United States doesn't know exactly what happened to it. Yeah, buddy, you're about to experience the biggest red pill you've ever had in your whole life. So you were trying to make fun of me and free energy and the magnetic motor as well. Do you even know the story about that? It's funny because I could tell that you were just copy and pasting the Redditor 200-page document because you can tell what gets intentionally omitted. So the story actually goes that I shared a picture, and the gotcha was that there was actually a video of the device online when there wasn't supposed to be. There was a video of the device online when there wasn't supposed to be. And people somehow say that this is a gotcha that I got debunked or something like that. Well, you know what? Let's watch the video right now. Shit, where is it? Here it is.
All right, so we're going to do here another demonstration.
Hold on. There it is.
All right, so we're going to do here another demonstration for you.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, just to the good part. So he's turning on the meters right now.
False.
Now, Professor Dave, I'm guessing you have no idea how to read a multimeter. So goodly, I'm going to leave the sound on so he can just explain it to you.
So I'm going to shut that off and turn the system on just to build up a little bit of excess power in the battery, enough to operate the inverter. So you can see once the alternator gets up to speed, the voltage will start to increase in the battery, and once it runs here for a few seconds, I'll have enough power in the battery to operate the inverter. So you can see here the power in the battery will start to climb quickly. Tells me there's residual power enough to operate the inverter. I turn the inverter on. Got my 200-watt light bulbs plugged into it. So you can see the amount of power here being consumed by the system is 117 volts at 1.15 amps. And amount of power being produced is 118 volts at 1.59 amps. So we have Overunity, and then we'll let it run here for a bit so that you can see that the power in the battery, it's going to just ever so slowly just increase in voltage, demonstrate that I'm not just simply bleeding power off the dead battery, which I couldn't anyway because it was basically dead when I started.
The battery was dead when he started. You can see the meter actually increasing the battery voltage over the course of that magnetic motor running. You could see the input, which was less amperage than the output. That's what we call overunity, when the output is more than the input. And when it comes to debunks of this, the only thing that anybody could say was they found some other person try to make a HATM device, which is what this magnetic motor is a version of the HATM device. And that person didn't know how it works, so they didn't do it correctly. It's not just as simple as just set it up there and then spin it and hope that it works. There's actually a back-end engineering component, like it's called a circuit that you have to set up. So go ahead, try to debunk it. Give it your best shot. Go for it. In fact, I offered, what was that guy's name? Mehdi Salmanazar or some shit like that. He's got like 7 million followers. He has no idea about how electrical engineering works. Just a big phony fraud pretender. Literally offered him to review it, and he was too afraid to do so. Too afraid to do so. And I want to be clear about, for the record, the version of the device that I had was not the exact same version, but very similar design. Very similar design. I still have videos of it on my phone, in fact. I'm not going to share them. And the reason why I got out of it is because I was being forced to sign NDAs, and I didn't really feel like selling $50,000 magnetic motors was really a long-term great situation. Started to feel kind of sketchy. So, plus I started to learn that microchips were where they were doing free energy now. And so I stepped back from it. That's the truth on it. And you know what? If you want to try to claim I'm a scammer or whatever else, good luck. Good luck. Find somebody that I scammed. Prove that that device doesn't work. In fact, if you want to prove the device that I have doesn't work, I might be willing to make an exception. So there you go. You also made some stupid claims about the matching VFX stuff. Obviously, you haven't seen any of the debunk stuff or any of that. So let me just go ahead and show you right here. There is no video game effects in the MH370 videos. I can't believe I keep having to do this. Can you tell that you guys can tell that the middle is not the same, right? Like you have eyes. You guys have eyes. This is literally the one and only frame that's even similar. This is the one and only frame of the stock VFX that's similar. Now, what happened is, just like with a magician, the debunkers will erase the middle, or sometimes they superimpose the actual thing over the top of the middle so that you can't tell that they're different. It's misdirection, just like a magician would do. So no. And obviously what happened here was somebody just did a reverse image search and found a frame that has like a similar edge. And then they just kind of blurred the lines of the edge so that you could see, so that you wouldn't be able to tell that they're not actually a match. So, I mean, it's kind of insane that you actually think that that VFX matches. I mean, if you're still like somebody who's still just like completely checked out from reality and you can't tell there's not video game effects in these videos, then you probably need like actual help. So just to really lay it home, here's the actual whole effect superimposed. This is the full effect, the stock effect, superimposed over the videos. So if you can't tell that this isn't in the video, then go talk to your shrink or whatever the hell you got to do. You've got a serious psychological issue. Like, no question, no doubt, this is not in the video. I mean, it doesn't even have the same number of frames. Like, you didn't do any basic fact checking. The stock effect has 7 frames, but we only have 4 frames in our MH370 video. Like, how stupid are you guys? Like, Professor Dave is the science equivalent of the Corridor crew. Like, pretend VFX artists that just pay other people to do the work. Professor Dave's like the physics version of that. Just pays other idiots who don't know physics to tell him what to say, and then he says stupid, wrong shit in front of millions of people. Now, let me pull up the real video. We're going to watch it. You need to watch it, obviously. In fact, keep watching this until it sinks in that this is real for you, okay? This is a color FLIR video under Station 5 hardpoint of an MQ-9 Reaper. Let that sink in. It's recording at night, hence the noise. You can even see the trails of these orbs as they spin around the plane because this is a hypersonic ramjet, scramjet design. So it's basically like a tube. We're going to kind of go over it in a little bit here about how it works. It's got a forward-facing laser. They're air-breathing magnetohydrodynamics. You're seeing a plasma sphere around these orbs. And what that does is it reduces friction. In fact, they can control inertia. Why can they control inertia? That's probably a concept you're not familiar with. Because they can control the electrons. And what fermions do is they repel one another. So they can use the electrons and change the mode of these orbs from, you know, intercept mode, flight mode, slow down mode, whatever they want. Like, can you see that that's an actual Reaper drone? Right. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because we're just literally looking at an MQ-9. You can see this heat signature right here that nobody in a million years would have ever thought to fake. Because that's where you open it up and all the computer parts are right there. You can see the wing. You can see it shake. Let me play it again for you so it really sinks in. You can see the shake increase as they zoom in, just with like you would with any kind of camera, right? Look at the shake when they go underneath the wake of the plane. You can see the shake of the wing. And then when they zoom in, the shake increases. Why? Because it's a real video, you idiot. Holy shit. How are people so stupid? I'm guessing you get fooled by a lot of misinformation, Dave. You seem like the kind of guy who wears a mask alone in his car, right? To protect yourself from COVID in the car by yourself. Let's go to the second video. Because I like to just make this simple for people. You want to attack me? I'll tell you exactly how to attack me. Here you go. This is Gorgon Stare Wide Area Motion Imagery. That's what it is. It's produced by Sierra Nevada Corporation and the Air Force. It's impossible for somebody to have hoaxed it because nobody in the public even knew what it looks like today. They still don't know what it looks like today, let alone in 2014 when this video appeared on the internet. Oh, and by the way, it's in perfect synchronization with the other video. Perfect synchronization. Even the orbs spinning around the planes in perfect synchronization. Do you think VFX artists are going to get 2 videos of orbs spinning in a triangle formation, spinning around the plane, perfectly correct in 2 different videos from 2 different angles? If you think that's an easy thing to do, buddy, go ahead and give it a shot. I'd love to see your work. My guess is it's going to be poorer than or at least as bad, if not significantly worse than the Corridor Crew's 5-second attempt. And the reason why you see that flash at the end, you say, oh, you can't see ultraviolet light. Yeah, duh. That's what I keep saying, dipshit. Ultraviolet light shows up black in a thermal. What color was that thermal video we watched of that event happening? Oh, yeah, it was black. Because ultraviolet X-rays don't show up, or gamma rays. They don't show up in thermal. So they show up as black. Now, the other video is some form of fused mid-wave IR. Gorgon stare. You can go look it up. I mean, the capabilities aren't even publicly known. They stopped releasing them. But that's the reason why we see the flash. We're seeing a flash of either ultraviolet soft X-ray photons. Why? Because we're seeing a refractive index change of the medium. What's the medium? Space-time, you dipshit. You're a fucking retard that doesn't understand that space-time itself is filled with 0-point energy. That's why it's something and not nothing. Space isn't an empty vacuum, you moron. It's filled with energy. That's why we can manipulate it. In fact, this has been known, again, for over 75 years, and somehow you're blissfully unaware of this fact. So don't you ever dare to come at me. You aren't even in my ballpark, little bro. The reason why you dodged is because I was going to annihilate you. And you know it, and so do all your fans, and that's the greatest feeling that I could possibly get. So you know what? Go make another video. I already baited you into this one. Oh, yes. I forgot to mention, I totally baited you into making this video. You can go watch my live streams. I know you didn't watch them, but I was wanting you to do this because you're going to make me famous, Dave. Because you're a guy, you're a moron with a huge amount of followers that doesn't know you just stepped in the worst shit you've ever stepped in. Your biggest mistake you ever made in your life was making that video about me. So you do whatever you want, buddy. I just do things. I just respond accordingly. You're going to make me famous. And honestly, I thank you for that. The more you come at me, the faster that's going to happen. And boy, this is all going to come back at you like 100-fold in the future. And you're pretty young, man. You have a lot of life left in you. So I wish you the best of luck. I really do. Okay, guys. That was our cooking. How did we do? 30 minutes. Not bad. Not bad. Ooh, that's delicious. Let's do some of these donos, and then we're going to get into some hard science here, guys. Truth Teller 86, thank you for that donation. Yeah, that was brutal, guys. I got to be honest, that even went better than I was expecting. Mike M. Ashton blowing up this foo by showing him in his own words on video. Negative credibility. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Professor Dave doesn't interview with like anybody who's serious, any real credentialed people, because they all know he's a complete fraud and a con man. So nobody's ever going to talk to him. Meanwhile, I get Avi Loeb interviews. I get Dr. Yu from NASA. I get Salvatore Pais. I get very, very credentialed experts to come and talk with me. And I'm sure that actually hurts him more than anything. I saw that he did a little several-minute clip about Avi Loeb, and he was claiming that Avi Loeb is sharing misinformation or something. Just wow, buddy. Truth Teller, World Star. Yeah, World Star, baby. Boom, gotcha, bitch. Oh, yeah, should we get that in there? There you go. Boom, gotcha, bitch. There we go. Boom, gotcha, bitch. It's great. Okay, Hexterino, Hexentino, Ashton, what is the probability that MH370 became, why is everybody so obsessed with it being teleported? I think it's like a matter of like people just can't accept that teleportation is real. Like, I don't know why. It's actually 100% consistent with just normal physics. Einstein is the one. We call it an Einstein-Rosen bridge. And yet for some people, they can't believe that teleportation can be real. Guys, it's normal physics. Space-time is a medium, and the geometry can be manipulated. Einstein knew this. That's what he figured out with relativity. So what is the odds? 0. 0%. The plane was not invisible. It was not invisible. There is smoke coming off the back of the plane in the video, and it just stops. The plane isn't just being teleported. It's being teleported backwards to the west. We can tell because it's a form of magnetic closed-loop teleportation, which means there's no retrocausality, and there must be a sender and a receiver, which means it's not just going to anywhere. It's not going to anywhere. It's literally being pulled directly backward from the direction of the orb spinning around the plane. This is all based on the right-hand rule in electrical engineering. Dave doesn't understand that either. The right-hand rule in electrical engineering would say that that plane is going backwards. And so that means it's going to the west. Where exactly to the west? Guys, I don't have 2 videos on the other side to tell you. So when the United States government releases the videos with the coordinates on the other side, then I'll tell you exactly where it is. What I can say is it's probably somewhere near the Maldives. Probably somewhere near the Maldives. And then last thing I want to say is that it could also have been time dilated. You can't necessarily go to the past, in my opinion, but it could be time dilated to the future. Again, this is all just normal Einstein physics. It's called time dilation. And in theory, they could have gone to the future. Now, the scientific papers say that the time dilation would be the distance divided by the speed of light. So theoretically, if that's on Earth, that shouldn't be a very long time dilation. It should be practically instantaneous. But if you can modify the path, if you can artificially change the path of the plane, then theoretically you could cause that plane to be stuck in, call it hyperspace, the ether, whatever you want to call it. You could cause that plane to be stuck there for some period of time and then come out. So this is actually the biggest question about the case, which is why is there a time gap of like 5 hours between when the plane was saw in the Maldives and when we see the plane being teleported in the Nicobar Islands? And the answer is I don't know the answer. Still trying to figure that out. It's very difficult when you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. Brawley GTA. Hi, Ashton. Can you please show the video of the one orbs go through the smoke? Yes, and we'll show that as well. So this is called accurate fluid dynamics that you're about to see here, guys. Accurate fluid dynamics. Nobody created this except for the United States government and then wide area motion imagery Gorgon stare. So you can literally see the orb displace the smoke in this video. I rewound it back and forth several times so you can see that. And before I hear people say it's an artifact, that's not what artifacts are. Artifacts don't add data to videos. That's not what an artifact is. It's not compression or any of that bullshit. That is just the orb going through the smoke trail in the video. The last thing I'll say about the videos is that it's not even just the physics. It's not even just the obvious cover-up of the missing plane, but the actual engineering of the plane in the video. That's a real Boeing 777 turning in that video. Do you realize that? You know how hard that is to fake? A real Boeing 777? That's the reason why the corridor crew couldn't even do 5 seconds of it. They probably started and realized there was no way it was going to work and it was just going to backfire on them. And that's why they just gave up. Because they knew I was going to eviscerate them when they couldn't recreate the video. And I still did anyway. In fact, here you go.
I'm going to do it directly from this guy. So, as you can see here, my client showed up for work on the day of the incident.
That's their real video, by the way, that you just saw there.
This is... Just a second. I'm going to have a talk with my nephew.
Wait, whoa.
You know what?
I want to see it.
The video is not...
Show it to me.
It's not working. I don't understand.
Is this what the jury just saw?
Yes. I'm going to...
That's the whole thing?
Unfortunately, yes. That is not what the whole thing was supposed to be.
Not only was the animation so poor, but it glitched and just froze up. So again, we only saw like 5 or 6 seconds worth of video, but it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
It's like the defendant is getting hosed.
He's showing very clear frustration.
Okay. What about the theory that MH370 was going Mach 1? I don't know. What is that theory? I don't know. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Redditors who don't know how to do math, who tried to use the coordinates to try to figure out this claim the plane was going 1,000 miles an hour. Yeah, it's not, man. You can actually find there was actually somebody who did actual real math early on, back in the first week of the videos in August of 2023 when they first came out, and showed that actually the plane is flying between 150 and 250 miles an hour. The reason why this is no big deal is the plane's low. It's very low. And it is making a very sharp turn as well in the beginning of the video. So, no, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the physics of what you're seeing from the engineering perspective in the video. And you can't, this is why, guys, if you're listening to random nut jobs on Reddit and stuff like that, who are just making shit up, this is the lesson you need to learn. You need to stop listening to random anonymous Redditors. Just ignore them entirely. Especially if they're haters about the MH370 videos, nothing they say comes from good faith. The same way where Dave's video just comes from this nut job 200-page PDF document, and that's why he got so many facts wrong, because they're just pushing propaganda, right? They're pushing a specific narrative, and these are the same people, by the way, that pushed Joe Lancaster as being the hoaxer of the videos, and he just got exposed 2 weeks ago by Textures.com of all people, where they just released the DMs of him planning to pretend to fake the video, to be the faker of the hoaxer of the videos. So yes, these aren't the people that have the best discernment on reality either. Farad and Eric Weinstein and Brian Keaton's podcast said he has never heard of Dr. Yu, even though they met before, similar to Dr. Susskind has done to him. What's your opinion on geometric unity? I have nothing against Eric Weinstein, but he's not even remotely close. Geometric unity is not even remotely close. He's never going to solve anything. No disrespect to him. He has no clue what he's talking about. No clue what he's talking about. I'm beyond Eric Weinstein at this point, way beyond him. And he at least understands the history of this. I don't know if he's in on it or what his deal is, but when it comes to the actual science, he has no clue at all. I knew he had no clue the moment I asked him, what do you think about room temperature superconductivity? And his response was, and I quote, not interested. Okay, buddy. If you're not interested in room temperature superconductivity, you're not really a physicist at all. Not a physicist at all. You're not a dreamer. You're not somebody who's inspiring people. You're not somebody who's forward looking. So I'm just not interested in what you have to say. I say that all the old boomer physicists that have been holding us back for 50 years, just go out to pasture, go retire, go do something else. Let the new, younger people that understand that Tesla was right, let us just take it from here. You guys did your job failing for 50 years. You didn't accomplish anything. You didn't discover anything. We've really had no physics discoveries for at least 30 or 40 years. And you might say, Ashton, what about gravity waves? Well, actually, a guy already won a Lifetime Achievement Award for gravity waves. His name was Robert M.L. Baker. He was a Lockheed Martin engineer. He won a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2011. So when you say we discovered gravity waves in 2015, I kind of just go, what the hell do you mean? We already knew about them. Yeah, I think that's good on that. Do we need them to call us out? And we need to keep responding. It's how we show everybody publicly that we are correct. I think we just do what we're doing right here. So let me go ahead and just show the DIRDs as well. I forgot to show these while I was talking about it earlier. So here are the DIRDs. I just highly recommend you take a look at them, Professor Dave. My favorite ones are, of course, warp drives. Warp drives, the wormhole one. So there's warp drive, dark energy, manipulation of extra dimensions, warp drive, stargates, and negative energy, and then extracting energy from the quantum vacuum. That's one you probably should check out since you clearly don't understand 0-point energy. Couple more videos I want to show as well that I forgot to bring up. Where is it? Here's a video that will help you guys understand that a magnetic motor is absolutely possible. Now, before I show it, let me explain that where does electricity come from? Where does electricity actually come from? Who invented electricity? I bet Professor Dave doesn't even know the answer to that question. Tesla did. Tesla's the one that invented three-phase alternating current, as in the same power that you use every single day. How does it work? All you do is spin a copper coil through a magnetic field. What? Why? That's it? Yes, that's it. Spin a copper coil through a magnetic field and electricity happens. Why? Because there's a time-varying magnetic field. A time-varying magnetic field is occurring. So why then would a magnetic motor not work? Why would a magnetic motor not work? Because when you think about it conceptually, all a generator is churning up the ether. Where's that electricity coming from? It's not coming from your hand spinning the coil. No. That's what dumb people think. The electricity is coming from the ether, the 0-point energy all around us. How can I prove this? Pretty simply, actually. Watch the Veritasium video. Watch the Veritasium video. Does electricity flow through the wires? No. It flows through the fields. It flows through the fields. And what that means, if I set a switch up right here, and I set a light bulb up over here, and I make a super long circuit, how long will that light bulb turn on? How long will it take that light bulb to turn on when I flip the switch? The answer is the distance divided by the speed of light, but not the distance of the circuit. The distance between the switch and the battery and the light bulb. Why? Because the fields flow through space. The fields flow through space and turn the light bulb on even before the power gets through the wires. 100% true fact. Undebunkable. And now here's Thorsten Ludwig explaining that magnetic motors are totally possible.
It's important to understand that any magnetic motor or so forth, there is a very deep connection between magnetism and 0-point energy. So, yeah, go ahead and build a magnetic motor. It's possible to draw this energy just using spins of electrons and permanent magnets.
It is possible to draw this energy just using spin and permanent magnets. Yes, fam. Magnetic motors are possible. And now you say, but Ashton, wouldn't they already exist? Well, yeah. Remember all those free energy engineers who got killed, died under mysterious circumstances? Or the ones where the government just stole their patent under the Invention Secrecy Act? Well, yeah. Why do you think we have an Invention Secrecy Act? So that people don't get free energy devices. Government kind of doesn't want people to have that. Pretty simple. And then the question is, well, why aren't they building them anyway? Well, they kind of are. The smart ones don't do it publicly. One of the things I learned firsthand, the smart ones don't do it publicly because when they do, every single retard on the planet comes out and goes, that's not possible. And then you go, okay, you want me to just show you? And they go, no, I don't want to see. It's not possible. And you go, but you just said it's not possible. I'm literally willing to show you it working. And you go, no. And then you say, okay, well, I'll just show it you working anyway in a video. And then you can see it working. And they go, that's fake. They're cheating somehow. It's a never-ending goalpost moving. So here's a Liberty engine. Outdoors. Go ahead and debunk this. Here's another free energy device. Putting myself out there. I don't even know these people, but sources tell me that it's legit. And, well, they're in the middle of nowhere. And what are they doing in the middle of nowhere? They're powering power tools. They've got power tools running out here. We've got a water pump running. We got our Mac. We got a Mac running out here in the middle of the forest by a creek. Off a generator that's plugged into nothing. Off a generator plugged into nothing. It's funny because when you read the comments on YouTube, people go, they buried a line in the middle of nowhere by the road. Like, what are you guys talking about, man? At least come up with something creative. Plus, by the way, these same people have several videos that show them disassembling and reassembling the device. Everything that anybody could ever want and ask in terms of proof, they provide. And even so, nobody cares. Nobody cares. That video has like 3 million views on YouTube, actually. 3 million views. Pretty wild. Okay, so now I want to change gears just briefly, and then we're going to come right back. Okay, that was Liberty Engine V2. You can find it on YouTube. Just search Liberty Engine V2. Real quick, I want to talk about the Unatel situation. I've actually got in touch with this guy, Paul Kirsch. Paul Kirsch, he did an interview a few years back, and he knew Larry Maurer and Michael Miller. Those were the two guys that started Unitel. If you're not familiar with Unitel, Unitel was the video and the website that I showed you guys where they had developed a quantum tunneling teleportation protocol using 3 ODVs, orbiting drone vehicles, in order to trick Mother Nature into thinking that the object is an electron. I mean, it's not just specific. It's exactly what's happening in the MH370 videos. It's too perfect to not be exactly what's happening. So get this, guys. One of the biggest revelations from talking to Paul is that Hal Puthoff was talking with Larry Maurer. Wow. Of course he was. Of course he was. Somehow Hal Puthoff is literally connected to everyone. And so Paul as well met with Eric W. Davis. Paul met with Eric W. Davis. And Eric Davis's response was like, oh, show me the equations. What the hell do you mean, Eric? You're the guy that figured this stuff out. Eric Davis is the guy that wrote the scientific paper that I just showed you on wormholes, the DIRD, and the extracting quantum energy one, and 4 more as well. That's how many papers he wrote. So my question is, who's stealing the technology from who? Now, here's another twist that I'm going to throw on you, and then we're going to go back to 0-point energy. The craziest part is that apparently, where did that Larry and Michael get their idea for their ODVs, their teleportation thing? They had a UFO encounter. They had a UFO encounter, and they claimed they got a download. I was like, what? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have a really, really, really hard time believing the download stuff, especially because I'm a guy that's like self-taught, that put the work in to teach myself this. Nobody downloaded it into my brain. But at the same time, it's pretty damn weird, especially because, yes, same thing apparently happened to Dave Rossi. And the other thing I can't figure out is like, okay, there's a, I'm not big on the alien thing, but there's a real possibility that everybody figured it out from a third-party source. And so what Paul was saying is that how did these random guys, one was an electrician, like how did these random guys figure out this really, really specific quantum teleportation protocol? It's not the kind of thing where you just like wake up one day and you're like, okay, hey, you know what? I had a dream about a quantum teleportation protocol. Let's do it. So there's still some mystery to the story, and I haven't got the full story of the UFO encounter, but that's what I'm hoping to get from Paul, is maybe he'll trust me enough that he can tell me the story, because I want to understand, like, what did they see? Maybe they saw advanced U.S. technology and they reverse engineered that. That's another option. End of the day, I don't really care about how they got it, where they figured it out. I just want the technology to be public. That's really all I care about. Okay. Now, boy, there's been multiple people are coming down hard on 0-point energy. Actually, before that, I want to correct something as well here. Okay. So I thought I was done with Professor Doofus Dave here, but this is one of his dumbass 9-year-old videos where he would make these grifty, like, here's a quantum mechanics thing that I don't understand. He's just obviously reading off a script. He doesn't understand any of it. He actually makes like a gaffe in the middle of this as well that he has to correct in the replies. This is him not understanding the photoelectric effect.
With our eyeballs. The wave theory of light was very useful for a time, but it could not explain the photoelectric effect.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. So this is the difference between somebody who just regurgitates what they're told to think, or somebody who reads off a script, like mentally ill retard Dave Farina, and somebody like me who actually understands the concept. Einstein was wrong about his Nobel Prize, about the photoelectric effect. if we take a piece of metal like this coin and we shine a light at it, electrons will be released from it. Okay, great. Well, if we increase the intensity of the light, more powerful light, then the kinetic energy of the electron should increase. But it doesn't. What? What do you mean it doesn't increase? Nope. The kinetic energy stays exactly the same. Doesn't change. How is that possible? Well, it's possible in the same way where if I light a match and fire off a cannon, you can have a cannon shoot a cannonball, but it doesn't mean I put in the same amount of exact energy to match it. But this is weird. Why is it that when I push harder, I don't get more push off the electron? This is what Einstein was trying to figure out. But they did find out how to make more energy come out of the electron. What was the answer? How do they get the electron to fly off with more energy from the coin? They don't change the intensity of the light. They change the frequency. They change the wave pattern is how you change how much energy comes off the electron. You change the color of the light because the frequency is the color. So then what's the answer? Well, Einstein said that the answer is we're going to make up this thing called a quantum of light. We're going to make up a new imaginary thing that doesn't exist called a quantum of light, and we're going to pretend like light is a particle when it's not a particle. It's just a wave. We're going to play pretend, and Einstein was wrong. Einstein was wrong. It turns out all it was resonance. Because all matter is, like this coin, is energy, waves of energy trapped in a resonance. So in quantum mechanics, there's something called spin, quantum spin. So what's the explanation that makes more sense for why the frequency changes the interaction with the metal? Because if two things are spinning, they have two different waveforms, then how those waveforms interact significantly impacts the outcome. Just like with the cannon, you can set up a situation where very little net input creates a huge release. Or alternatively, if you have the wrong frequency and they don't interact strongly, then nothing happens. Almost nothing happens. End of the day, thinking that light was a particle is for idiots. Light's never been a particle. It was always a wave. In fact, it had to be a wave because light is just an electromagnetic representation. And all waves need a medium. All waves need a medium. Let that sink in until you accept it. All waves require a medium, and we've already detected gravity waves. There's no question that space-time is a medium. If space-time wasn't a medium, there couldn't be gravity waves. Do you get that? Is that simple enough for you, dumbass? It's amazing how retarded these people are. Holy shit. So Sabine Hassenfelder, I was going to show her video, but maybe we don't even bother. It's actually just straight up embarrassing for Sabine. Sabine claims that you can't, well, okay, maybe I'm being disingenuous here, but her general belief is that you cannot extract 0-point energy. I'm going to show all the brainwashed NPCs right now how brainwashed you are. You believe 0-point energy isn't real. I already proved that it was, okay? It's been real for 75 years. You say there's no way to extract the 0-point energy. Also been proven wrong since 1984. Robert Forward showed you can use the 0-point energy. You can use the plates coming together to extract useful work. If you don't understand that, go back to basic physics. Movement is energy. If you see plates coming together, that's energy that you can extract 100%. And then because you're a brainwashed NPC, you ignore what I just told you and you go, but you'd have to pull the plates apart to do it again. Yeah, nobody's saying that. That would be repeating the process. I'm just telling you, you can extract 0-point energy. Let's just go one step at a time for the dumbasses, okay? You can extract 0-point energy. That was proven by Robert Forward in 1984. The issue of perpetual extraction, that's an engineering challenge. Of course, you're not just going to use 2 plates for that. And this is where the free energy microchip idea from Sonny White comes into play. So if you're not familiar with the Casimir effect, two plates, put them together, and they have an attractive force. Without you doing anything, they will come together. The reason for this is because there's this 0 point energy, like white noise, all around everywhere, and it's waves. And when you have two plates, certain wavelengths don't fit between the plates. Every wavelength that doesn't fit between the plates causes more pressure, inward pressure. This inward pressure is a negative energy density. What does this mean? Sabine Hassenfelder mentions a false vacuum. False vacuum. The false vacuum is space-time. The false vacuum means there is an energy level below the lowest state. That's the idea of the false vacuum. The false vacuum says this is zero. This is absolute nothing. We take all the light and heat out of a cube of space-time. All we're left with is 0 point energy. The idea of the false vacuum says there's a true vacuum. If you remove that 0 point energy, you get to the true vacuum. The false vacuum is the vacuum that includes the 0 point energy. Now, why is this important? Because now we have the basis for our negative energy that we need for our warp drive or a wormhole. Now, all negative energy is extracting the 0 point energy. Extracting the 0 point energy is negative energy by definition. It's a conceptual understanding. This is what people don't understand about it. So hopefully if you're one of Dave's followers, you just learned, A, that I'm right and he's an idiot, and B, you just learned a little bit about 0 point energy right now. Everything I'm saying is 100% true and undeniable. And if you don't believe it, well, here's Sonny White showing his free energy microchip to Joe Rogan.
It's cool to think that, you know, maybe we could come up with a technology that, you know, provides useful power today for things like this. Maybe, you know, if we put it in aggregate, if we put a lot of them together, right, we could get to a point where.
What is that chip?
This is just a 3D print of having a bunch of those little chips that are 5 millimeters by 5 millimeters, 1.5 volts, 25 microamps. If we add a bunch of those together at a very large extreme, you know, that particular board might generate 3.4 watts. And so that board could recharge your phone in 3 hours. And so imagine.
So that's pretty good, right? I mean, what is the excuse here for this? Like, are they saying it doesn't work, or like Sonny White showed the experimental results? So I'm trying to understand. He even showed like it forms a warp bubble because of the design that he used is like a Helmholtz coil. It forms like a little warp bubble, exactly like he says we would need for negative energy for a wormhole or a warp drive. And he says right there, if you build an array on a wafer, since you're probably not familiar with microchips, it's called lithography. You take a wafer and you put a microchip on and you build it in an array. And what that does is it amplifies the effect. Amplifies the effect. What Sonny White is saying is that pretty soon we're going to have a microchip you can put in your phone and your phone will never run out of energy. Now, what would you call that? What would you call a phone that never runs out of energy? I would call it free energy. In fact, that's what I do call it because that's what it is. When you have a device that's just literally self-charging itself, that's free energy, but it's not coming from nowhere. It's coming from the 0 point fluctuations. The same energy density that Richard Feynman and John Archibald Wheeler calculated to be 10 to the 120. How did they do that? Sabine Hassenfelder says there's no way to calculate the energy density. There's not? What do you mean? We just talked about it. It's called the Casimir effect. Just add up the Casimir effect. What do you mean? Like, we can see how the closer the plates get, the more powerful the force is. So all we have to do is make some assumptions about little plates all out throughout the universe, and we can estimate the energy density. In fact, that's probably what Richard Feynman and Wheeler did. I don't know that for a fact, but it seems pretty intuitive to me, right? So this is why it's so embarrassing listening to a academic PhD like Sabine Hassenfelder just be completely abjectly wrong about everything related to 0 point energy, and clearly didn't do any research about it either. Like no research either. All the same scientific papers that I've been reviewing, they're all out there for anyone like Sabine to read or Dave to read. They just don't read them because they're retards. It's simple as that. You guys maybe say, Ashton, why are you being mean? These people need me to be mean to them. They need somebody in their life to stop coddling them. These are the type of people who have been given participation trophies their whole lives for doing nothing, right? This is the reason why Professor Dave flunks out of school twice. Because he's a participation trophy idiot. He's a loser and has always been a loser. These people need to be told they're losers and they need to better themselves. They need to actually try harder to not be complete wastes of humanity. And then the other crazy thing that Sabine says is that she says that the virtual photons don't even exist. That they just made up a fake term. Well, yes, they made up a fake term, but they absolutely exist. Like, there's no question about that. Once again, 0-point energy was proven. It's not debate. I can't believe that we're in 2025 and I'm listening to science communicators who don't understand that 0-point energy is real. What's also not real? Gravity? Well, ironically, they don't know where gravity comes from either. I'm actually not even making this up. They literally don't know where gravity comes from. They don't know what causes mass. They don't know what causes inertia. And of course, the answer is 0-point energy to all of these things. It's all of these things. They also think that, oh, we had the Higgs boson. The Higgs boson can't even explain mass. The Higgs field can't even explain mass. There is no dark energy. There is no dark matter. These are just made up terms for people who don't understand cosmology. The answer is 0-point energy. The answer was always 0-point energy. It was just us that was too stupid to understand it. If the virtual photons didn't exist, then why is it the dynamic Casimir effect can pull virtual photons out of the ether? Like, what? What do you mean? I'm going to pull it up. Here it is. Like, this is the part where, like, did Sabine even just, like, Google it? You can just Google it. This isn't something that requires, like, deep science study. Dynamic Casimir effect is a phenomenon where vacuum fluctuations, aka the 0-point energy, aka the virtual photons, are converted into real photons or particles due to a time-varying boundary condition, such as rapidly moving mirrors or a modified refractive index. And what did I say about that? Remember, Dave, when I was educating you a few minutes ago? What is one of the reasons why photons might appear? Ultraviolet or X-ray photons? Because of a refractive index change in the medium. Because the Casimir effect is happening. Because that plane is being teleported and we're seeing a negative energy. And before your stupid ass tells me it would take a huge amount of energy to teleport something. Wrong again, retard. Go ahead and read Matt Visser's scientific paper about wormholes. Takes an arbitrarily small amount of negative energy to produce. Direct quote. So, apparently virtual photons aren't real, but the dynamic Casimir effect is turning them into real photons. You explain to me how you think that's happening. You tell me from your view of classical physics, where are those real photons coming from? Where are the real photons coming from in the dynamic Casimir effect? It's not coming from light. It's not coming from matter. Where are they coming from? So here you go. Leonard Susskind can't even explain it. Leonard Susskind is one of the most prominent astrophysicists on wormholes. In fact, I really look up to him for having, let's say, he was one of the big proponents for ER equals EPR, which is Einstein-Rosen, a wormhole, is equivalent to Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky, which is quantum entanglement. So this is a beautiful theory that connects quantum tunneling to macroscopic wormholes. ER equals EPR. And here's the man himself, Leonard Susskind.
If you remove matter and you remove radiation, what causes the electric fields? Like, what's the perturbation and what?
I can't answer what causes it. I can tell you that the uncertainty principle requires it to be there. But we're making the assumption there is no electric field, there is no mass. Oh, I thought you...
Did I say there's no electric field?
So de Sitter space has only the dark energy. Or
right.
Okay.
It has no real photons. It has only the 0-point energy.
Okay, you can have an electric field without real photons.
It just doesn't have any charges.
It's there anyway. The field fluctuates anyway. It doesn't need charges.
Right.
So the 0-point energy is there anyway, and it's electromagnetic in nature, but there is no mass, there is no light, and there is no heat. Sure sounds to me like space-time is electromagnetic. I mean, that's Leonard Susskind saying it right there. It's electromagnetic, even without light, even without heat. Just the 0-point energy is electromagnetic in nature. But wait, Ashton, wouldn't that mean that a magnetic motor should churn up that 0-point energy because it's also electromagnetic in nature? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. In fact, the concept of 0-point energy is so simple that it baffles me that I'm the guy that has to promote it. Should be everybody just accepting that it's obviously the answer. I mean, what are we even talking about here? This isn't even a debate. Scientifically proven. I mean, once again, where do you think electricity is coming from? Where do you think electricity is coming from? Look at the actual experiments. You think it's running through the wires? Come on, man. Another way to look at it's this. When we're talking about what the plane is, what the orbs are doing to the plane, imagine noise canceling. How does noise canceling work? How does the noise canceling headphones work? Where am I noticing? Right? How do these bad boys work when I put them in? Why does it get quieter? Why? Because they're using constructive, destructive interference. Destructive wave interference. You have two waves overlap. They wipe themselves out. That's how noise canceling works. That's the same idea as canceling out the 0-point energy. In fact, if you want to get to that true vacuum, that's exactly what I would do. I want to push out that 0-point energy. Why? Because 0-point energy is space-time. 0-point energy is space-time. Do I have my sponge? Where's my sponge? Space-time is like a sponge filled with energy. And if you pull that energy out, you're manipulating the shape of space-time. That's 0-point energy, everybody. So here's a video of Bernard Haish explaining Garrett Modal and his Casimir cavity free energy microchip that uses the Casimir effect to produce voltage, just like Sonny White's microchip that I already showed you. Okay. What's it called? Quantum energy extraction. Where is it? Crap. Why don't I see it? Hold on. Oh, what the hell? I had this ready to go. Hold on. What did I do with it? I think I wrote down the name wrong. Let me see. What is it called? Quantum energy extraction. Quantum energy extraction. Quantum energy extraction. Shit. Oh, there it is. Okay. There. Got it. Yeah, here we go. I think this is it. So there's the patent right there, right? Bernard Haish.
If you get online and look for 0-point energy devices or gadgets or things like that, you're going to find lots and lots of claims, dozens if not hundreds of claims of devices and conspiracies and things that are on the shelf but hidden from us and so on. I don't believe any of that. What I'm presenting to you this morning is, I think, the real McCoy, the real thing. The problem is it's the real thing, but we can't guarantee it's going to work. I mean, this is something that we think may be revolutionary. On the other hand, we have yet to prove it experimentally.
This is probably like 10 to 20 years old, by the way.
So I'll talk to you this morning about the physics behind it. This concerns a quantum vacuum energy patent that Garrett Modell and I reissued a couple of years ago. It's now assigned to the University of Colorado. And it concerns 0-point energy. Now, the 0-point energy comes directly from the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. If you let any oscillator oscillate, it will eventually come to rest because of friction. In the case of a quantum oscillator, it will never come to rest because the Heisenberg uncertainty principle forbids taking the last little bit of energy out of anything.
Even somebody like Dave can understand this concept. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle means that nothing is ever truly at rest. Our oscillator, like a swing or a pendulum, even when it looks like it's coming to rest like this, it's not really at rest. Quantum mechanics says it's still moving. Well, holy crap, that sounds a lot like perpetual motion to me. Perpetual motion is not supposed to be real, though.
So it was first proposed prior to the onset of quantum mechanics in 1912, enormously large. You can calculate Stern. It was sort of dropped from consideration for a number of years until quantum mechanics was developed in the 1920s, and then zero-point energy came directly out of the quantum mechanics formulations at that time, and it's been part of quantum mechanics ever since. You can calculate how much zero-point energy there ought to be at any place in the universe. You do this by looking at...
But wait, Sabine just told me you can't calculate the zero-point energy. So, but this is Bernard Hayes, a former Lockheed Martin engineer, and he's telling me that they already were able to calculate it. So who should I believe? A science communicator on YouTube? Or should I believe a literal black project engineer that worked for Lockheed Martin Skunk Works? Who should I believe, chat? Who should I believe?
The modes of the field. I don't want to get too technical, but modes of the field means any given direction or frequency, there is an electromagnetic mode. And if you sum all those up, you get a frequency-dependent spectrum that goes as frequency cubed. And so the spectrum of the zero-point energy goes as the frequency cubed, which means it rises very rapidly. Unfortunately, it rises to we don't know where. It could be infinity, which is a bit embarrassing because you don't want an infinite amount of energy in the universe.
Go ahead, buddy. There are the calculations. There's the math. What do you think, boss? Could go to infinity. But we don't want infinity. We don't want infinite amount of energy in the universe.
It could cut off at the Planck frequency, which still is enormously large. So we just don't.
And, you know, just like that photoelectric video that you didn't understand that you made, the Planck frequency could be the smallest wavelength possible. If that's the case, then there might be a cutoff for how much energy there is. If the Planck frequency is not the smallest, then there is no cutoff. Then there's definitely infinite amount of energy density. But even if the Planck frequency is the cutoff, then there's still a practically infinite amount of energy out there.
I don't know where this cuts off, but it goes as a frequency cubed spectrum. Now, there are effects that can be attributed to zero-point energy. One of
So there you go. That right there was the Casimir effect.
them is the Casimir force. If you put two plates close together, you find that the wavelengths of light or of zero-point radiation, which is a form of light, that are larger than the cavity, the distance between the two plates in the cavity, they can't exist there because of electromagnetic boundary conditions. And so you have an underpressure. You have more waves of zero-point radiation outside of the Casimir cavity than inside that causes the plates to be pushed together. That's one way to explain the Casimir force. It's been measured. The Casimir force is now a well-established phenomenon. It's not only been measured, but it's also
Actually crazy that people are still trying to deny zero-point energy.
part of microtechnology these days, because the Casimir force is a candidate to use for control of microelectronic devices.
Okay, let's skip ahead a little bit. Here you go. Look, Robert forward battery, chat. Let's go back a few.
Hoping what we proposed is useful. This is not useful, but it's a demonstration of the principle. If you take this this sort of spiral plate and you charge it up with electricity, so it simply has positive or negative charge on it, and you then rely on the Casimir force that acts between the layers of the plates, you can use the Casimir force to press this spiral together. And in doing so, you're increasing the electric field in the region. Well, you're increasing the electric field because you're causing the charges to get closer together. And so this is very useful for demonstrating the effect of the zero-point field doing work on this device. Now,
So that's Robert Forward. That's his scientific paper you can read there. I guarantee you haven't read it. I have. Robert Forward was actually the mentor for Eric W. Davis. Eric W. Davis is the guy in the UFO hearings sitting front and center right next to Anna Paulina Luna. as a whistleblower for black projects that he was been a part related to the United States government. Let me just repeat that one more time for you because it probably didn't sink in the first time. That was a scientific paper by Robert Forward from 1984 that shows you can use the Casimir effect, extract useful energy from it. And Robert Forward was a black project engineer and genius who was also mentor to Eric W. Davis, who is Hal Puthoff's right-hand man. He wrote 6 of the DIRDs, including the warp drive one, the wormhole one. I think it was the laser light sails. And he also wrote the extracting quantum vacuum energy DIRD as well. So yes, you can extract energy from the 0-point fluctuations. And then I'm going to skip the QED part, probably going to go over your head. The hydrogen atom, also vitally important. Here's another scientific paper for your script writers to read, Dave Farina. Oh, sorry, I meant mentally ill retard Dave Farina. Check out Hal Puthoff, The Ground State of the Hydrogen Atom, 1987. I'll tell you how it works. The ground state of the hydrogen atom shows that it's not radiating energy, but how can that be? Because the electron is still, there's still angular momentum. The electron is still potentially spinning, if you believe in the particle model, spinning around the atom. Why is it that the electron doesn't crash into the nucleus? How does it stay stable like that all the time? How does it stay in perfect orbit, even though energy is being released from it? Hal Puthoff says the answer to this question is because of the 0-point energy field. What's really happening is every atom is constantly radiating out energy, but also absorbing energy from the 0-point energy field. And what does this do? It keeps the electron orbital stable. Even if you try to shorten the orbital, shrink the orbital, aka extract energy from it. If you shrink the electron orbital, you reduce the ground state, you pull energy out of it. Great. The reason why classical physicists can't deal with this is because that shouldn't be possible in their mind. But it is. And when we do that using the Casimir effect, we pull useful real energy straight out of the ether, straight out of the 0-point energy field. And what Bernard Hayes and Garrett Model figured out was we can basically turn this into a trampoline, engineer this into a trampoline. Set up your microchip so that you pull a little bit of energy out of the vacuum. They use something called a squid. I'll let you look it up. I'm not going to teach you that. And then they pull a little energy out of the vacuum, and then they use something called a cavity, as in empty space. Just normal empty space. Move to the cavity, and what happens? Bloop. The electron orbital bounces back. How simple and beautiful is that design? I'm going to pull a little bit of energy, a tiny, tiny little bit of energy out using the Casimir effect. And then I'm just going to have it go to an empty space where it gets the energy back. And then I'm just going to repeat the process over and over and over again. Welcome to Garrett Model and Bernard Hayes' Casimir cavity free energy microchip patent. That's exactly what they're doing. Okay. And this is him literally explaining it, like right there. In fact, I'll do a couple.
To seize the entire 0-point radiation.
Let's listen to this part right here.
On the electron is the dashed line. This was also reproduced by L.J. Nickish at an institute in Monterey, who did the same thing, but with his own simulation program, different from Dan Cole's. So, what is the basis for our patent? Well, in SED, electron orbits are determined by this balance of emission and absorption. And so, if you take an electron, an atom, I should say, and put it into a Casimir cavity, what you see here in the middle, is the long wavelength radiation, schematically represented by everything in green, and shorter wavelength radiation from the 0-point field represented by everything in purple. And when the atom is sitting out in free space, of course, it sees the entire 0-point radiation field. When we insert it into a cavity, that cavity then blocks out the longer wavelength aspects of the 0-point field, and so it's only reacting to the the truncated zero-point field, which is represented by the purple arrows. And so since there's less zero-point energy pumping up the electron in its orbital, we would...
I said it backwards. Apologies. The cavity is where they're pulling the energy out, and then they go to the empty space. There you go.
Assume that the electron would spiral inward slightly, and as it does so, give off some energy, which energy then we would propose to capture. And so this is the basic idea behind the patent.
So, and then there you can see the back and forth, right? Where boop, 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 boop. Just back and forth. Simple. Really simple. Now, Sonny White's patent, I'm not as sure about Sonny White's in terms of how his microchip Casimir cavity patent works. But it's definitely extracting. Like, I think that when he did it, he designed it like a Helmholtz coil because he was trying to prove warp drive using negative energy. And he wants to see, like, basically the lines that show a warp bubble is what he was trying to do. So Sonny White's is a little bit different, but it's using the exact same concept of the Casimir cavity to pull energy from the quantum fluctuations of space-time. The space juice, everybody. The space juice. See, even Dave can understand space juice. That's his level, right? Here you go, Dave. It's just like space juice. Like in your sponge, you squeeze your sponge and some space juice comes out. You can get that, right? Jesus, we destroyed this poor guy. Kind of feel bad. Okay, I think that's enough on the 0-point energy for tonight. Let's do a few donos. And if you have some questions in the chat about 0-point energy, let me know. I'll address those. And then I want to look at a scientific paper by Jean-Pierre Petit, who has the Janice cosmological model. Found a really interesting paper. I don't know who forwarded it to me. Okay. Link Zelda. I'm convinced Ashton is already a pocket dimension filled with ZPE at his beck and call. Guys, I think the newest thing is that we're all in a black hole or something. I totally believe that, guys. And then my Japanese homie, he always donates 666, which is a little unsettling, but we'll let it go. Because if you convert it to American dollars, it's totally normal. Particles are waves. We can vibrate to a higher dimensional frequencies through consciousness in a similar manner to people from future parallel realities. Oops. And actually, that reminded me of another great video that I'm going to play real quick. What is it called? Puthoff. Here's another good example of 0-point energy by Hal Puthoff.
I'd ask, there's all that energy right there. Where does it come from? And we know where it comes from. Every piece of matter in the universe is fluctuating around, doing its quantum dance. And in so doing, it radiates energy out. And then every other atom is sitting in that radiation field and absorbing it, and that causes it to jump around and therefore radiate. So it's basically the electromagnetic equivalent of putting a microphone by a speaker and getting the squeal. The particle fluctuations generate the fields. The fields cause the particles to fluctuate. And you can do the calculation and show that that accounts for where the vacuum fluctuations come from. It's a giant cosmological feedback system. And we've published that in Physical Review, the details on it.
We published that in Physical Review. That's a peer-reviewed journal last I checked. Actually, it's probably one of the most prestigious ones. That video is from almost 30 years ago. Actually, it's 31 years ago. I think it's from 1994. 31 years ago, Hal Puthoff talking to a group of probably big energy type people, explaining the concept of 0-point energy. It's just everything is wiggling. We're in a medium, and the energy is wiggling around all the time. And that wiggling causes fields to occur. And those fields then interact back with the energy and cause it to move again. Caught us in this perpetual feedback loop. Constantly happening. Do you know why Hal Puthoff knew that? Because he was an engineer that built one of the first tunable lasers. Laser. I always forget. It's light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. That's what laser stands for. Light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. That's why Hal Puthoff knew what 0-point energy was, because he understands the concept of a laser. And he was like, oh, wait, what's a laser really doing? Oh, it's just shooting these waves through a medium, and you can cause amplification to occur. You can have lasers collapse on top of each other. For the person who asked the question, when can we get a free energy microchip? That is a great, great question. Based on what I'm seeing from multiple people, like basically ready to roll theirs out, we're probably looking at less than 5 years. But ultimately, the gatekeepers are the ones who decide. They've been able to build these free energy microchips probably for decades, at least in the defense contractor side, with very advanced lithography. From the public standpoint, I think we're now just getting to the point where the first free energy microchips are going to be possible, where we can start to charge stuff that doesn't require a lot of energy. And then what will happen over time is the microchips are going to get better and better and better, and we're going to be able to charge everything with free energy microchips. The lights, your computer, air conditioning, anything. And free energy microchip, of course, then will become $1 trillion business. And my guess is what will happen is the companies like NVIDIA are going to be the ones to roll them out. The NVIDIAs and what have you already have them probably on the shelves in the back, and they're just waiting for the U.S. government to tell them, okay, you're okay to do it now. That's how I presume that it will play out. But I'm not, ultimately at the end of the day, if you listen to the people like Eric Davis and stuff, when they say, when will disclosure happen? Those guys don't know either. It could be tomorrow. It could be 100 years from now. It could be 5 years from now. The real answer is whenever people like Dave Farina and all his followers wake up. When they wake up, we will get free energy for the world. That's the harsh and the true answer. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. Sooty, I'm with you, Ashton. It's good to also remember papers and patents often reflect theoretical or experimental possibilities, not reality. Sometimes, usually scientific papers represent reality. If a scientific paper doesn't represent reality, it's usually a model. Most scientific papers are things that literally represent reality. That's the point. And when people say patents don't have to work, that's also wrong. So this is where you guys have to be careful about the misinformation you absorb. The very first requirement in the patent office for a patent is that it works, that it actually be a real thing that can work. Now, you don't necessarily have to show them something, but the reason why Salvatore Pais, U.S. Navy engineer, got so much pushback because the patent office did not think that his patents were possible. So no, you cannot just patent anything. This is Redditor misinformation, classic, normal stuff. Once again, literally just go look at the patent office's website and go look at the requirements. It's the very first requirement. Your patent must be real and work. PNTRA 12. Ashton. So right now, they currently don't have stable negative energy densities then, like the ones needed for an actual FTL warp drive. No, they do have it. Here's the rub. It doesn't take a huge amount of negative energy to pull it off. And according to Salvatore Pais's patents and the MH370 video, the way they're pulling it off is they're creating an EMP. This right here. How are they doing this? These are 3 balls of energy coming jammed together. So they're not making negative energy. They're pushing aside all the space-time 0-point energy with this EMP that they're producing. They're producing a non-radiative, aka not hot, energetic event that has a huge amount of electromagnetic flux. And that electromagnetic flux does something called polarize the vacuum. Polarizing the vacuum is electrifying the vacuum. So imagine there's all this static noise on the screen right now. And it's there, we just don't see it. What they're doing is they're creating an EMP pulse that pushes all that away. For just a brief second, it pushes all that 0-point energy away and it electrifies it. It turns this region into a uniform electric field. And when that happens, it changes the refractive index of spacetime. Causes it to go negative. That's your negative energy. There it is. And as you saw, it only takes a fraction of a second. And that's why it looks like in this video that the plane is just vanishing through a mirror. It looks like the plane just edited out. Except for we can see in one frame, in this frame right here, you can see the reflection of the tail of the plane, of the stabilizer in the right. You can literally see it right there. You can literally see the reflection of the plane. And go look up the wave. What is it they did? They have this wave pool, and they did these like wave crashing waves into each other and shooting them up into the air. I forget what it's called right now off the top of my head. And it's funny because when they do this, you see a reflection, just like you see this reflection here. And like throwing a rock into the water. This is analogous to throwing a rock into the water. When you throw the rock into the water, first you get this dip down, and then you see this dip shoot back up. It's kind of like that. Because like, once again, all waves require a medium. So the plane looks like it's disappearing because the plane is tunneling through space-time itself. Tunneling through space-time itself. And this is only possible via the concept of zero-point energy. So to wrap that up, what I've been saying, am I a physicist? I mean, I don't know. To call yourself a physicist, I don't think there's credentials. I've never claimed to be a PhD or a doctor. I'm just the guy who has the answers. That's it. And yes, I will be proven 100% correct about the MH370 videos, about the science of zero-point energy. It's literally just a matter of time. Literally just a matter of time. Isn't that for a one-time teleportation event? Like, it's different to bend space-time continuously, yes. Then for a, okay, so if this is what you were getting at, then yes. So there are many different types of wormholes. I was surprised to learn how many types there are. So like a Stargate is different than the wormhole that we saw. The kind that we saw is a one-time event. Yes, like, you know, pushes that space-time away and comes back. Now, this is where John Kramer, he is a PhD and an experimental nuclear physicist from the University of Illinois. This is where he would say, we might have to do it that way. We might have to do it that way because there's no way you can have a reference point in space and time, because now we're realizing time is just an illusion. Distance and time are illusions. So you can't have a fixed open point anymore because time might be flowing differently than it's flowing over here. If time's flowing differently in 2 points, you can't have a Stargate connecting them, or can you? Theoretically, you could, but if you were looking through the Stargate, one side's going to look like they're moving faster than the other side. One side might be looking like they're moving in super speed, and the other side might look like they're like slow-mo. That's called relativity. That's called time dilation. So the big thing for me is, have they figured out how to take it even further? The form of teleportation we're seeing, once again, is a closed loop. They have a sender and a receiver. So they have to send the fourth orb to the destination where they want that plane to go. That's pretty damn amazing, but it's not godlike power. But that was 11 years ago. 11 years ago. So who knows what they have now? Hopefully that answers your question. And thank you guys for the donations. You guys are on fire today in the chat. Mike M6044, Ashton 4 orbs. I believe that if you need 3 orbs to open the wormhole, and there are 3 also needed on the other end. Ashton's 6 orbs does have a nice ring to it, though. Yeah, guys, I said I will legally change my name to Ashton 6 orbs if they release a video that shows 3 orbs spinning on the other side. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure. I think there might be, because I think you've got 3 orbs dancing on one side, and then I think you have 3 orbs like dancing either like the opposite way or, you know, something like that. Because I think what they're doing is, once again, churning up the ether. But in this case, they're not churning up the ether in the same way as we're producing energy. They're churning up the ether to create a bridge. They're churning up the ether on both sides to create a bridge between them. They're entangling. That's what they're doing. Those orbs spinning around that plane have to be entangling that plane to its destination, in my opinion. Great questions, guys. You guys are on fire. Okay, you guys ready for another little mind blower here? Let me see. Where is it? Oh, one more thing I wanted to show too. It's really interesting to break down the misinformation that people get on Reddit about these topics, especially cold fusion, warp drives, wormholes, but also about the EM drive. So the EM drive was also real. And go ahead and try to debunk it, because I already know what the debunk effort is. The debunk was that NASA claimed that, oh, it was like too hot or something, and therefore the results that they calculated weren't real. Well, here's the results right here. Anomalous thrust production from an RF device measured on a low thrust torsion pendulum. Right here it says approximately 30 to 50 micronewtons of thrust were recorded from an electric propulsion test article consisting primarily of radio frequency resonant cavity excited at approximately 935 megahertz. Who wrote this paper? That is Harold Sonny White from NASA. That is the same Harold Sonny White that was on Joe Rogan that was showing him his free energy microchip. There it is, the actual peer-reviewed scientific paper from 2014 that shows that, yes, the EM drive actually worked. The EM drive produced anomalous thrust. And yet, if you go look online, you'll say that, no, it was a scam. It didn't work. Well, the test results from the peer-reviewed paper say differently. What you have is a narrative. You have a narrative. You don't have actual evidence. You have a phony made-up narrative that liars made up because they needed that to not be real. The reason why they needed that to not be real is if the EM drive is real, that means the ether is real. That means the zero-point energy is real. What are they pushing off of? You can't push off of an empty vacuum. What was the EM drive pushing off of? It's pushing off of empty space. It's pushing off the ether the same way a submarine does. The EM drive is the lamest version of this technology. It's basically Star Trek impulse drive. I don't want any of that shit. I want warp drive, man. I want warp drive. Bend space-time enough for me to just go. And you bend space-time enough, and you create, what is that? A wormhole. So a warp drive is connected to a wormhole because they're both just bending and manipulating space and time. And wait, who else said that recently? Oh, crap, I don't have the link to it. It was Kratsios, the White House science and technology advisor, that just recently said, we have the ability to manipulate time and space to annihilate distance. Well, what have we just talked about all night tonight? We talked about how you can annihilate distance and manipulate space-time by manipulating zero-point energy. Wow. Wow. It's not that hard, guys. I think Eric Davis said in one of his papers that for continuous negative energy densities to bend space-time continuously, he said we may need an emergent space-time theory, aka quantum gravity. We've already got the unification theory, guys. The unification theory is zero-point energy. And yeah, my guess is they probably have figured out how to do like permanent zero-point energy extraction, because it's going to be just like the microchip, but just more advanced, right? We're looking at all this stuff easily in our lifetimes. I can tell you that much. It's going to happen in our lifetimes, or we're going to wipe ourselves out. I'm just trying to push things along here because I'm 42 years old and I want to see this before I die. Okay, we'll agree to disagree on the cosmic balance, but thank you very much, my friend. And Levi says, everything has to be entangled, including matter in each individual orb. That's why I think they're matter waves. They're definitely matter waves, no question. But let's dig into the orbs. Thank you, Levi. So the last paper that we're going to take a look at here tonight is this paper by Jean-Pierre Petit. Here it is. Let's go with this. Let's go with this one. MHD hypersonic flow control for aerospace applications. Okay, I'm interested. So basically what this paper is about making the plasma orbs. It's about making the plasma orbs. And what it basically says here is that we can use electrostatics, positive and minus charge in plasma, to reduce drag and friction. We can reduce drag and friction with this plasma ball, and we can completely wipe out the shock wave. When we have a craft flying through the air at high speed, it creates a shock wave. And they can use intelligent control of electromagnetism, of magnetohydrodynamics, to completely stop the shock wave from happening. That's the first part of this scientific paper. So you can see the examples here of the shock wave and how they deal with it. Now, the interesting part starts to get down here. Where is it? Here's more shock wave stuff. The design. Look at the design of this. This is exactly what I expect the device inside the MH370 video orbs to look like. Why? Because we see an inlet where the air is being sucked into the orb. They're shooting a laser forward, air is being sucked into the orb, and it's coming out behind the orb. So this is what it's going to look like. And in the middle, you're going to have very powerful magnets, possibly as powerful as 10 Tesla. And what these magnets are going to do is they are going to slow the electrons. They're going to slow down the electrons that are coming through this. In fact, they can control the motion of the electrons. That's the whole point. They can control the motion of the electrons and create a plasma bubble around this thing. And that's what we're seeing in the MH370 videos. In fact, this paper says they can change the mode of this thing. They can change its mode, and just like I was saying before, use the electrons to slow down the orb if they need to slow it down, or just control the speed in general. In fact, it takes it a step further. And the paper says you can generate heat from the momentum of the orb through the air, and you can convert that heat to electricity and then use that electricity actively. Now, what's crazy about that, that's exactly what the dense plasma focus paper by Frank Mead and George Miley and David Froning was talking about. They were talking about this idea of perfect propulsion. In fact, this paper almost perfectly mirrors the Frank Mead dense plasma focus paper, except for it doesn't talk about the additional applications. So let me show, I have a few screenshots. Let me go to the screenshots instead here, actually. Okay, let me pop this out. One sec, guys. 3 and 4. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, here we go. Oh, why is it all big? Whatever. Okay. Your wall MHD converter. So they set up an alternating magnetism. You can see the positive and minus magnets right here, right? Let me go with this version. You can see these positive and minus magnets. They set up this back and forth thing. And then it says, where does it say about controlling it? According to the MHD bypass, oh, here we go. Right here. The short distance between the electrodes allows working at lower voltages. In a gaseous environment, this layout enables acceleration or deceleration of the fluid according to the MHD bypass principle, and will control the flow at all points in such a way that shock waves are canceled out, no wave drag. And as a consequence, turbulence will be eliminated. Wow. How is this not bigger? I'm guessing this is why Jean-Pierre Petit is like relatively famous, but also probably suppressed a little bit. I mean, there you go. That's explaining the MH370 orbs. Here it says, however, if their thematic appears to be the same as ours, the technical solutions used on the MHD Lightcraft are very different than what we are suggesting. What was the part of it? Oh, here we go. I don't know how to say this guy's name. Mayarbo uses MHD accelerators in a snowplow mode where highly localized electric discharges slide between electrodes, literally pushing the air on their way. Due to the simple magnetic geometry developed in his project, the pair of electrodes are confined to the periphery of the disk, and air ionization can only be reached in front of half of them. To the contrary, we suggest a non-thermal ionization, cold non-equilibrium plasmas. That's what non-thermal means. No heat. non-thermal ionization without thermal blockage, a glow discharge plasma covering the whole area of the disk. A glow discharge plasma covering the whole area of the disk? Yeah, that's what we're seeing with the orb. It's just not disc shaped. Just not disc shaped. Wait, did I do somehow I got this one twice? Sorry, one sec. Where's the other image? Oh, here it is. Okay. This one says, let's consider an alternating dipolar magnetic field generated by an electromagnetic coil placed inside of a thick disk. Maxwell's laws dictate that this magnetic field will generate induced electric field. If the surrounding gas conducts the electricity well enough, eddy currents will appear in it and will combine with the magnetic field to produce radial Lorentz forces, J times B, alternatively centrifugal and then centripetal, as indicated in figure 21. But this would only shake the gas around the disk with no propulsion effect, the integral of momentum being equal to 0 over a period. So why is this one important? Because that's explaining the perfect propulsion. It's explaining the perfect propulsion by Frank Mead. He's saying we can actually just cancel out the momentum, the inertia of this object, but that doesn't allow it to move forward. We need something else to propel it forward. Well, we have an answer to that, right? We can shoot a jet out the back of our MHD bypass system, or we can shoot a laser in front of us, or both, or both. Now check this one out. This is the actual money right here, guys. MHD bypass applied to hypersonic space planes. This is chapter 7 of the same scientific paper. A conventional turbojet can be viewed as a machine operating a mechanical bypass system with an energy transfer from downstream to upstream, transferring this energy through a shaft carrying compressor blades. In fact, some of the energy is taken away from the compression chamber located downstream by blade assemblies and used to rotate the upstream compressor. In what follows, one part of the incident kinetic energy of the fluid sticking to an object at hypersonic speed is converted into electrical energy through the use of wall generators. Let me repeat that. One part of the incident kinetic energy of a fluid sticking to an object at hypersonic speed is converted into electrical energy through the use of wall generators. The recovered electrical energy is reused to accelerate and add an extra speed to the ejection gas flowing out from the nozzle. Here is a general drawing of what this looks like. And this is, it says right here as well, this is a hypersonic plane that could represent the aircraft operated by the United States as a replacement for the SR-71 Blackbird. And then it shows some images, and it even talks about the Russian Ajax. The Russian Ajax hypersonic plane right there. All this stuff, where did this science come from? It came from Russian hypersonic designs. And they figured out that this plasma sheath that they were using for their spy planes, we could just turn that into a drone. Why do I want to have a person inside a craft that's moving at Mach 5? That's a danger to the person. Just make a drone out of it. So what they did was they just turned the engine itself. See this engine design down here? They turned the engine itself into a drone. That's why it's just like a tube, basically, with magnets. It's not even that complicated. Okay. Let me see. Is that it? Yeah. Okay, so going back to the paper. If we then go to the very, very end, you can actually see some of these designs. I mean, look at that. That's just a drone. That literally is just like an opening and then just like an object. And then it's going to be covered in plasma. That's the whole idea of it. The Wave Rider mechanic. And you guys, I'll put a link to this in the chat so you can check it out. But it talks about pretty much all the same concepts that we have been studying related to these air-breathing magnetohydrodynamics. So obviously more than one person has figured all this stuff out. Actually, I'm not going to read this whole conclusion here, but the basic idea is that they can actually use the plasma flow itself produces electromagnetic fields, and that keeps it stable. So just by creating that bypass, they can create a stable plasma field using very powerful magnetic fields that reduces drag and inertia and allows this object to just float freely. And through clever use of how they expel these particles through the back, they can fly it around. And then once it achieves a constant velocity, they can shoot a laser beam forward, and now it's just sailing through the sky, defying gravity, we would say. So let's listen to one of my favorite clips, and then we're going to finish off the thing for tonight. So this is Paul Siz, explaining the MHD.
Paul Ziz was head of hypersonic research during his career at the McDonnell Douglas Aerospace Corporation.
And these were the concepts we were looking at 30 years ago.
He has no doubt hypersonic aircraft are already operating.
Well, I think the technology for flying 6 to 12 times the speed of sound existed 30 years ago.
This interview is from the early 2000s. And he said, we had this ability to go these super speeds back in the 70s.
And all that's happened in the last 30 years is that the airplanes have gotten lighter and they've gotten easier to build from the challenges that we had. So there's been people that have seen these, and they all look very similar. They're triangular-shaped vehicles.
Assigned to Ajax, Professor Paul Ziz has tracked down scientific papers to piece together the puzzle.
He just said triangle-shaped vehicles too, right?
The energy bubble, or air spike, carves a path through the air by ripping electrons from molecules to form a plasma. This forms a cushion between the shockwave and the aircraft's skin.
The Russians have induced a cold plasma by means of a plasma torch that introduces electrons. It makes the air electrically conductive. Very low energy in the front of this vehicle. And in doing so, in a mechanism that we do not yet understand or cannot calculate, the strength of the shock wave reduces in half.
What did we just read, guys? So when somebody says Ashton doesn't read scientific papers, well, I just proved you wrong in real time right there, guys. Jean-Pierre Petit's scientific paper says the exact same thing that Paul Size just said. He said it reduces the shock wave. Petit just said, I keep mispronouncing his name. JPP just said the exact same thing. We can completely wipe out the shock wave entirely.
So the entire vehicle now flies through the air at half the drag it would have if it did not have the plasma torch here.
As well as reducing drag, this layer of electrically charged air helps propel the aircraft. Powerful magnets accelerate the charged air past the craft, generating almost half the total thrust. This futuristic propulsion,
generating almost half the total thrust,
is called magnetohydrodynamics, or MHD, and it could propel Ajax to incredible speeds. Since Professor Ziz began probing Ajax, the curtains of secrecy have descended again. But a few more tantalizing details have leaked out.
There are some interesting tracks out of a radar site in Sweden about a year apart.
That's good enough. So, basically exactly what I explained. So what did they do? They just took their hypersonic design, they had their plasma sheet, they got rid of the plane. We just need the engine. We just need the engine, put a quantum communication system in there, and now we can control it like a drone. We only need the quantum communication system because we need a bypass plasma. Otherwise, radio waves would just bounce off the plasma. At least most of them would, not always. So we need to have a quantum communication system in there. So that's what they did. Whether or not you believe it or not, I don't give a shit. That's why I'm a journalist, because I'm just showing you the evidence right to your face. Take it or leave it. For my boy here, PNTRA12, do you think we have full unification? Yes. Kaluza-Klein unified quantum mechanics and general relativity in 1926. 1926 is when Kaluza-Klein unified electromagnetism and gravity. So we've been going 99 years with the unification theory, and we just haven't accepted it. I already got that one. Thank you for the double donations, by the way. I appreciate it. And then Fly Ether said, could this Iran situation be about 0-point energy? Yeah, I think it certainly could be. I mean, we're not worried about nukes, guys. We're not worried about nukes. What we're worried about is that they're going to find out about unlimited energy. How do you stop even a small country that has an unlimited energy source? And I think that what happened was John Archibald Wheeler helped develop the hydrogen bomb. The hydrogen bomb. And what did I say? The ground state of the hydrogen atom, 1987, Hal Puthoff. Hydrogen atoms are constantly exchanging energy with the 0-point energy. Almost anything I would bet that when they were doing the experiments for the hydrogen bomb, they realized about 0-point energy. And that's why John Archibald Wheeler shifted from bombs to gravity manipulation. That's why he shifted. John Archibald Wheeler was also the guy that coined the term wormhole and black hole. Fun fact. And he was also the guy that was tasked with learning everything from Einstein before Einstein died. Seems like a pretty smart guy. So yes, absolutely I think it is possible. Okay, guys, I have some sad news to end tonight. As you guys know, I was on Redacted a while back, and at the end of my Redacted interview, I asked everybody to pray for my Aunt Margot, who was being put in a nursing home. And I just got the call right before the stream that she had CPR was done to her, and she is in the hospital, at the heart hospital right now, and I don't know how much time she has left. The only reason why I still did this stream was because I can't go see her tonight anyway, and I'm going to go see her first thing tomorrow morning. So I'm asking that you keep my Aunt Margot in your prayers for tonight, because she's somebody that means a lot to me. And in that vein, oh God, this is going to be hard. I want to tell a story. So it's called the McDonald's story. When I was young, probably around 8 years old, I was with my Aunt Margot, and she has basically provided for me ever since I was a kid. All the video games I ever had, all the clothes that I've ever had, she bought all of them. We went to McDonald's when I was a little kid, and I remember that there was this young boy, probably about 6 years old, by himself in the McDonald's, sitting at a table by himself. And my aunt went up to him. And me being the selfish 8-year-old that I was at the time, I couldn't understand why my aunt was buying something for somebody else that wasn't me, because I was a little selfish piece of shit. And she went up to that little boy and said, "Are you hungry?" And he said, "Yes." And then she bought him a Happy Meal. And I guess the story is, my Aunt Margot is the most generous person I've ever met. All she's ever done her entire life is try to help other people, strangers that she doesn't know. Even up until she went into the nursing home, she was supporting random people on her floor, and she lived in the ghetto, straight up hood, her entire life because she had basically no money. I just want her to know I love her. She is why I'm the person I am today, and she's what I want to be in life as well. So thank you all. Have a great night. Peace out, MH370X.
Out in the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. exotic matter. Negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Coulomb forces balancing the plates, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crump shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the